It's Blue Dawn dish soap, a surfactant,
That was in the
salt.
little brochure there years ago.
Yeah, it's a new recipe now because the surfactant that we used to use is not available anymore.
The Shackley?
Yeah, Shackles.
Oh, really?
They've gone out of business. Yeah. But surfactants you can get at the fire station. They use it in fighting fires. It makes water wetter. Go figure.
Okay, so I'm going to start at this end. Hold on a second. Okay. 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 Now you see, stop, sorry. Now you see I'm bending all over the place here. It might be a matter of how I'm holding it or, yeah.
With the striker.
So the striker.
Does everybody know about this thing? If you put a piece on the harding hole and hit it, it bends. It's a very handy tool. Straighten things out. I can't help myself.
So, Becky, we're making a lily pad out of a 1/4-inch blank, aren't we?
I'm wrong.
Oh, she got earplugs in. Hello, Earth calling Becky. Hey, Becky? Hello? You're making a lily pad out of a 1/4-inch blank? Is that what we're using?
That is what we're doing right now. It's a 1/4 inch blank that, as I was saying to them, the opening between the two lobes is quite large in the blank because as I forge it around, it will open up on the sides and bring the two lobes together.
Ah. So this is what we're in the process of doing now, is it?
Yes. And I can do, because this is one of the big ones, I'm trying to show that you can use a Smith & Striker for it. So I'm getting Dad to strike for me, but then I can do the other half with the power hammer to show that too.
Ah.
It's good to get it nice and polished. Yeah. One more. One more. Yep. 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 Okay. So to start to get that, all I have to do is make sure that the inner side of this, still can bend on me, the inner side of this is pointing towards the middle, and it starts creating that shape. You're getting the bulge along the edge, and we still have to take another heat on it, but and you get a nice clean shape there. If I hold it as this perfectly, I get a nice clean shape there. Both ways I kind of like it, but
Is there something I'm doing that's causing it to bend?
it might be because the anvil's a little high, so when you're hitting it, I'm assuming you're hitting it a little bit like that.
So
you
I'm
know?
hitting like this.
I'm probably. I mean, the anvil is high for that. Or my tool a little bit like that, and I'm holding it a little bit like that. It's quite close.
So, Becky, do you ever do something like this by yourself? Or do you find it bounces around too much?
I haven't done this by myself. I have the luxury of having access to a couple power hammers. So I don't try to do that. I've done a lot of other things. If I can hold the piece, I have a hold down tool, which I don't find that great, but I mean, I do have something that if it's, to stamp it or something like that, I can do it. But for something like this, where you want hit after hit after hit, it's a bit annoying.
It pops loose eventually.
It either pops out or it's the amount of work that you're doing is kind of you can't get the same strength just with one hand and you're holding the tool. If I can do it two-handed, then you can get the power. But I mean, even this with sledgehammer in two hands, it takes longer, right? So I mean,
In the early days when I first started, I was making a lot of anchors. I was forging 1-inch round with claws at the end of the anchor. I made a heavy pair of tongs, and I put it on the piece. And I had a stand behind the anvil, and I could put on the sturdy stand, and I could sit on the tongs and use two hands with such hammer, and it's really easy to do. So it's very, as Becky said, you have to use two hands on the hammer.
Strong vibrations running up the tailbone at night.
So we're gonna move on to the next one. Yep. 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 Okay. Okay. Go back to this one. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. Much
So
better.
I'm going up a little bit higher.
Yeah, it's probably awkward for you, but
No,
it's
it's-
just using. It's funny, and like with the guy who was using strikers, having the anvil lower down.
piece of
Oh, I can do it, it's all right, but he's just not normal.
That's close.
I'm gonna pass it back around again.
The little the 14-year-old who was striking with the young Smiths, because he was only 4 foot something, they had a little stool for him to strike on, and they called it his high chair. Oh, Alec needs his.
That's quite high.
I got a question. Try and put a hole in the short pieces of the lamp on the lamp. Is there any easy way to do that? I couldn't, I think I made the hole, but
Yeah.
I did one block and then go on.
Yeah. Yeah, if you do that.
You don't see it on those sticks that she
Or
made,
hold that,
you know,
you
when
can
it was
take a
folded
round line.
over. I mean, it's
Ready?
just,
I'll-
well, maybe a few there, but
Pick that up
it's
in a
not.
minute.
There's gotta be some way to
No,
do
no,
that.
but when it was folded up tight, you can see it on the side a little bit, but not, it's not indented in here. That's what I find interesting.
Okay. Sorry, the okay is to stop. Should I say that? No, stop.
But when she was doing
And then that might
it,
hit
she
it.
did hit.
When you want me to stop, just swing it to one side.
When it opened up, then you can't see it. See those marks right there? That was on the edge.
Okay.
See, she hit the ball.
Yeah, it's unfair. It's the same thing. I'm not used to having a striker, and
Well, she
it's
smoothed
definitely
it
unfair
out.
to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
someone to
yeah,
stop
yeah.
halfway down.
When she
So
opened
that was
it
the same reason I could take this to the side, but then I'm afraid you're going to hit the piece because I don't do it at the right time. If I did it at the right time, like right after you hit, you'd be fine. But I'm not quite sure about my use. Now, I was going to use the power hammer for the other half.
Okay,
You done?
good.
Do you want to work on the power hammer?
Okay.
I'm absolutely exhausted. Like I say, what I did was I
So I will have to get in there.
take the piece out, at the bottom, switch.
No, you'll be all right there, I think.
You're out of luck.
Plant it, or have a
Before being there.
Yeah.
So you don't worry.
I got some information that he had more like this. So like, oh, this is what you
So you can get your one here for the first 15 minutes, the rest is free.
Well, that on the bottom. Quick way to
Just use follow square shipping.
How did you cut out the lily pads, Becky? You have a CC?
Jerry, it's plasma cutter.
Yeah.
It records, but it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Not even much I have to. At first I just did them freehand because that's all I really wanted. I draw it on the thing. But then I just made a
They moved you out of the, they're using the hammer there, that's why.
Masonite template, and the Masonite's awesome for that. Because
In case you're wondering what the hell's going on.
it gives you something to push against.
Yeah.
Break going. No, no, she did half with the striker and half on the hammer.
The cross beam on each side. Came it in, and that makes it a little smaller.
This is a little harder because it wants to jump with using a tool like this. But I can still get the indentation, so I just have to.
So the press would be a good.
A heavy press would be awesome for that.
Yeah.
This hammer would be awesome if it was just, it's not set up for using a tool on top, so the actual, ideal blow is too low, so that's why it's bouncing. And it shouldn't really bounce. It doesn't bounce when you're using it for drawing out something else.
Oh, okay.
But I'm asking it to hit, an inch above where it's, and that.
Just that much difference.
Yeah, it does make it. It's a huge difference that kind of thing can make, and that's the big selling feature on air hammers.
Right.
Is that it doesn't have that issue.
Of course, Gerry's got the adjuster.
He has the adjustment. It's just that you don't just do that for 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, for sure. I mean, I could adjust it. It would be nicer for the hammer. Oh.
You want to adjust it up or?
It's up to you. It's your
It
hammer.
doesn't matter to me. It's up
I'm
to you.
only going to be doing this for 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, well, it's up to you.
I don't care.
That's really what I'm more going for is the weaker one. So we'll go around, and this is starting to come together here. You can see there's only 3/4 of an inch where there was like 1.5 inches before, but I can do it a bit more.
Power hammer does a much better job.
Well, but it's not really because with the bouncing, it's very hard to keep my hand from moving. Like ideally, if you hit, it's not hard at all for me to keep my hand in the same place. It's a little bit harder, I find.
Okay.
But obviously it's easier for you.
Now, is that the kind of thing you could do on the fly press then?
I believe so. I don't have a fly press, but I think that is a good use for those kind of things. Like you were just saying.
Yeah.
It would be kind of ideal. That or a treadle hammer, or anytime where you can get a couple of hits, especially. This has a brake and your hammer has brakes, but a lot of hammers don't have the brake, in which case it's always annoying to try to put a set tool on, leave it exactly where it is, and then you just have to wait for it to stop turning around. And that's dangerous. The Little Giant didn't have a brake, and I was really relieved when I got there that I didn't have to use the Little Giant. I didn't have a lot of power hammering that I had to do. I was prepared. I was like, okay, Little Giant's crappy, then I can do this instead. I can do that instead, but it had no brake, and it had the bottom die was wider and longer than the top die, which really, it would be great in some circumstances, but you kind of assume that you're going to have shoulders that line up. And for the cattail, for example, that was just about shoulders lining up, and then, it's not the end of the world. It's just that for home use, you wouldn't want your power hammer to only have that capability. So I want those to come together a little bit more. So I'm going to reheat the ones that aren't that deep, and I'm just going to try to forge a little bit on the ends. And while that's heating, I'll also do the stem, because it's later than I first thought. I made these tools before I left because I was trying to figure out, when I made lily pads before, I actually really like it welded from the bottom. It looks nice from the top, but for this circumstance I didn't want to do that because I wanted to be able to put the piece together in front of people. So I decided to make a tenon at the end of the stem and rivet the lily pad on from the top. Now this isn't proper tenonship. You know, if you're doing a table or something, you're going to want to do it more carefully. But it did give me the chance to experiment with it and make the tools. So I did make myself a tenon making tool to forge the end down, and then I made a monkey tool to square up the shoulder. And it was the first time I'd done that, so it was kind of fun to do something different, and I think I'll be able to use it in other circumstances. This is significantly big. That's significantly big for this, so I'll probably do it in the vise. And that is that's what I'm going for.
If anybody's interested in an idea for building a power hammer, I have a design I'd love to see somebody build. It's a little late today for me, but it's like it's a mechanical hammer based on the Baudry system, but it behaves like an air hammer. So you can never have this problem.
So that's almost around, you get more of the curve there, and I'll just do one more on the other side where I'm doing that other tenon. So what I'm going to do, because of the way I built the tool, I made this tool for either 1/4 or 3/8, and I'm going to make this about 1/4. So like I said, because it's just easier, because it's not moving, my party hole is smaller than his. I'll use it here, which is offered as hell. It'll be offered to and I'll start it off because I made this for travel, which is why it has the tiny little spring. So I didn't want to have something wrong with me. So it means that it doesn't have much room to. It doesn't have, you know, it works fine, but I have to really get my material in there first. So I'll start the shouldering here, and I'll move it over. And I always just make it too long, because if it's too long, then I can. I just cut it off. So, and this is the kind of occasion where actually it's nice if your hammer handle extends past the bottom, so you don't have to worry about hitting that. So I'm just squaring up. I'm just trying to get my hammer blows to be somewhat in sync with the top of the angle. So I can start the shoulder. And as long as I have enough of the shoulder that I can put it in there and have a definition, then it'll keep going on. So now I'm going to go to, if you want, I haven't tried that before. Okay, I'm going to go to the power hammer first right here. Big for me. The only thing I don't want to do here is miss. far as I need to take it. I've got the curves all around, and it almost meets, not quite, but it almost is. This guy. Sure.
Well, it's easier. Unless you want to do it?
It's fine.
Are you going back to that power hammer again?
No, I'm done with power hammer.
Oops. Good idea.
Oh. Speaking of how it's good to make your tools and super quick. No, I mean, that's not surprising. Like I said, because of the fact this is a spring that's so short, it doesn't have much room to vibrate, and it was really meant to be just a travel tool. But that does leave a little bit in the lurch here, but I'm actually just going to do it anyway because it just won't be a very clean tenon. But
So was that spring being mild steel too?
well, it's right.
This here.
It was a spring.
What was this?
Gerry probably has one.
Yeah, but if it's that short, you don't have much. You don't want it to get stuck down. It would probably
Is
that?
Big.
Yeah, I'm doing quarter inch. Yeah.
Pair of tongs. We had a pair of tongs with the right size groove in it. You could use it for puller.
It's fine. There's enough shoulder there that it is a bit of a definitely not a professional technique. But if I can get the end in the monkey tool, then I can upset it enough to make the. Yeah. So I'll just force it a little bit down farther because as long as I can get that in the monkey tool and there's something to upset against, it'll be the natural look as opposed to a nice clean head. But
It's the inside hole chamfered on the monkey
just
tool.
slightly, just very slightly, just take the edge off there so that it doesn't create an edge in there. This tool I made from Lorelei Sims' book, which recommends that you have the dropout hole too in the side. So this is about 2 inches long, like it's a 4-inch long piece. Again, just mild steel. Drilled a 1/4 inch hole in the end. Drilled a side hole for theoretically for the scale to come out of. Although I haven't had that really happen, but they also give some, there's no air lock. And I just use this if you for example, which is what I'm going to do, if you put this in the vise, then you can use this to upset the edge so that you get a nice clean shoulder. Normally, if you use this tool, you get a pretty clean shoulder to start, and then just use it to clean out the edges.
Is that just mild steel, Becky?
Yeah, it is. I actually did super quench the very end because it doesn't really matter. I mean, just so that if I wanted to go a little bit colder than I normally would, then I wouldn't scrub the end.
Okay.
Becky, what color do you super quench at? Does it depend on?
I super quench at orange, and I'm not sure if that's right, but it seems to work. Is there a rule about?
There is, but I don't know how important it is.
Yeah, it doesn't. I've never had anything not. I haven't tried it like cherry.
Yeah.
But.
No, I usually go to a full orange.
Yeah. So I find this one of the awkwardest hammer blows to do, is to try to line up your shoulders with your shoulder of your anvil, especially you should try to find a sharp point on the anvil. But as long as I can get this down here, that's about far enough that I can at least make the shoulder. So I'll heat this up.
Put that in that round shape there to hold it. Going down through that.
If you've got one of those,
Yeah, right behind Wayne there.
this should allow me to hold it easier. It's like this. this has 2 pins to line it up to.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what size I am there. Okay, so I should be able to hold it in that one. This should make it easy to hold, hopefully, and
So you don't have to use spring steel. I noticed that's just
no,
next
no, yeah, I mean, it gets the same effect. Especially when you have it this long, I mean, you've got
Right.
lots of room there, so it's gonna,
And then the welding's not a problem.
yeah. The awkward part about this is getting it in position. So that it won't stay in position. And again, because this is half improper. Thanks very much. It sometimes makes it harder for the piece. It'll stop it from being distributed. That's the benefit of using this, but it actually, because it's gripping on all surfaces at once, it actually makes it harder to bite in. But I'll just grab it short, lower down. Well,
I mean, is it in the right hole? Because it's never struck before.
it might be me gripping it, but that's the hole is, I mean, the only other hole is really small, so I could try that too. I'll try the small one.
I have an aluminum one, which finds a little grippier.
Oh, yeah?
The whole thing's made out of aluminum.
Yeah, it's 2 pieces of big heavy aluminum angle. I think, yeah.
And it holds up.
No, no, it's consumable. Yeah. But it grips really. I found it, I tried the steel one and I couldn't get it to grip. Then I made one aluminum and it
You
grips.
put a spacer in between before you drill?
I can't remember.
You have to do that.
I guess it'd have to, yeah.
Business cards.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have.
So I'm gripping it in this too tight container here, or too tight bowl, to try to get it in there. I did burn it a little bit, but that's not. So if I use this to shoulder it up, you can see it actually does make, even without the proper tenon stuff, it makes a fine shoulder that I can use as to rivet that again. Because all you really need is enough material there to stop it going through. And I'll just clean that up, cut it off. So as I said, I will square up that hole. I totally didn't need to do this, but I bought a square drift because I was at Havana and there was stuff to buy. Even though I have a square drift at home, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, so I will use that even though it's still painted.
Did you buy much stuff?
Not a lot, because I was really worried about coming back through to the border. So I bought this hammer, that. Oh, and I actually ordered this instead of buying it there, but I just wanted to tell people about this. I'm not going to volunteer to do any forge welding in front of people, but this is the Iron Mountain Flux. If anyone wants to try it, feel free to today while I'm here. Feel free to take it a shot. My understanding is the main bonus of this is not that it's so, I mean, it's a good flux, but the particular bonus is that you can tack it at colder heat so that you can keep your piece in the right place so that when you get it up to welding heat, then you can, it's already in the right place. And welding heat for this seems to be somewhat lower.
Is that the stuff that Dan Brazil was showing?
Yes.
Same stuff, isn't it?
So he was showing it there, so I had already ordered it. Like I said, I got that in the mail. But so you can order it from Centaur Forge, probably other places too, and probably through Dan specifically, because Brian specifically because.
Or Brian, yeah. Dan Brazil, yeah. Freudian slip.
Yeah. I did it right.
Brazil and Brazil, I guess.
Expensive?
Not that crazy. I actually forget. It wasn't
20
that
bucks.
crazy. Sorry?
Is it 20 bucks?
Something like that, yeah. Have you tried it? So, sorry? Have you tried it? No, I just got it yesterday. So that's why I said I brought it here, because I was just like, well, I got it, I'll bring it and people can try it, but I'm not going to test it in front of y'all. Although, of course, I guess if I did, I could say, well, it's obviously crappy. Sucks. Yeah, you guys try it too. So all I'm trying to do here is give it a reason not to want to spin and to open up the hole a little bit, because I made the hole a little bit small so that I could do this. So I just got to go a little bit farther so that it's easy to do. And while I'm at that, see how much I need to cut off. 1/4 inch. I want that to be fairly flat at the top.
I think DC's easier.
Yeah.
I think so. But rheostat is, it's sliding gate is
Yeah, exactly.
by far
It's easier on your motor going everywhere. Second speed.
I made a leaf. Taste it, smell it. Okay, so that.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tell you what I use. No, but.
I can do the vice screw part if you want to.
This is one of those occasions when it is nice if you can move all the way around your vise. And yeah, the main point is to make sure that it's nice and tight up against the shoulder at the bottom, which I wasn't quite sure would work with that technique.
I'm using a monkey tool to drive it down. And what I found too with the bases for this, I really actually enjoyed it because to put it together, I made, well, 5 of these because I find that it looks more appropriate with sort of an uneven number and lots of them. The actual pad has to be horizontal for it to look right, because of course they do actually float horizontally, even the ones under the water float horizontally. And they'd be leaning back with this, the opening towards the current. So they're on an angle like that, this angle I can move like that. And I also found it really nice, I used the base, put a hole in the base, heated this up, dropped it into the base, and then used the base as a tool to bend against, so that I could just heat it up, drop it in, and bend it to where I wanted it to be, which was nice to put together. So, that's it.
Another $5.
I'll build up the fire again, because I think Ruben is probably...
Thank you very much, Becky.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I do one.
Did you forge the wings on the dragon down there?
To attach them to the dragon?
Yes.
No. Those wings, I made it, the ones, when I made it down there, it was actually, I made it so that they fit nicely against the curve, and then they were just welded from the bottom, which was a little bit more subtle, but still required
I find, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to do a lot of forge welding in front of people for a while until I get more confident. But the size of that would be really difficult anyway. Because I'm talking about welding, you know, 3/4 inch round to 1/8 inch flat. To me, that would be a pretty big challenge.
So it's 10 after 12.
There you go.
Jerry, should we break for lunch and?
Yeah, I don't know what.
You want to see that?
Did Rusty come?
Miriam was down and so was the wife. Yeah. They were down, so I can go check, I'm sure.
Oh, it's paying attention, yeah, right there, and that's a serious spot, yeah. So, like, it's just amazing, but it's just like change something. People are gonna do it, better change whatever you get used to. Totally, yeah, and I remember at one point, I was scared to go up to the top, I was scared to change guys, and, it was hard to get over, and,
Stay.
that you're 100 feet off, yeah, shifting, and all the rest, so, yeah.
Sometimes under you, sometimes not.
Yeah, right.
She just welded them wings on there, did she?
Yeah, and I remember, I think it was Boss, he was just like, he was like, no problem. Falling is not an option. And that was the only, that eventually allowed me to get up there.
I got him? Hold that guy up like that for a second, Jerry. What? Just to have a look at him.
Yeah, because you gotta give.
There you go. Thing of beauty. Set him down.
It's gotta be Pat, is it?
What's that?
It's gotta be Pat?
Yes.
Yes.
How you doing?
How you doing? Not
It's
too
fancy
bad.
meeting you here.
Yeah,
You get that thing fired up?
not yet.
No?
I've got so many irons in the fire of a different nature.